Hello, everyone. We are coming to you live from Newegg Studios in Southern California. This is Newegg Now. I'm Trisha Hershberger.
I'm Juan Carlos Bagnell, and we're here every Thursday, so you should be here every Thursday so we can talk about the latest in tech, PC hardware news, and tasty, tasty deals. This week we'll be checking in with our friends at EVGA, some pretty cool hardware there, and talking to the virtual reality game masters at Survios.
So head on over to newegg.com/Newegg Now if you aren't there already, because that's where the deals are. We've got deals from EVGA, Corsair, Microsoft, Acer, and the list goes on, and they are all live on that page right now.
Right now. There's a lot to talk about this week, so let's get started right away. Talking about some CPUs.
Great. We've been talking a lot about AMD the last few weeks, and there's two reasons for that. One, they're awesome and make cool stuff, and two, their Ryzen CPUs really changed the landscape of the CPU market.
And it looks like they're at it again because AMD has just revealed, just taking the wraps off of Ryzen 2 Electric Boogaloo. So the follow-up to their very successful Ryzen CPUs that we've been talking about, I mean, we spent a little time talking about them, was it last week or the week before?
Yeah, for the past couple weeks.
Yeah, we've been really excited about the potential for pro hardware, gaming hardware, some really cool tech.
Yeah, so these are the second round of chips that use AMD's Zen architecture, meaning better multi-threading performance and serious overclockability without a huge price tag.
Yeah, so we, between the two of us, haven't had a chance to test these chips out for ourselves just yet, AMD. But we do know that the CPUs use an improved Zen Plus version of the Zen architecture, as seen on the original Ryzen CPU, and also include new power infrastructure, increased clock speeds, and a minor die shrink.
So if you're looking for more threads and cores in your chips, then Ryzen could very well be the way to go. If you're big into multitasking, maybe you're a video editor, or you might be someone who does a lot of 3D modeling, then these extra cores can really come in handy.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And this new family of CPUs includes the Ryzen 5 2600/2600X, two separate chips there, and the Ryzen 7 2700 or 2700X. And as you, I mean, if you watch this show, you probably know the X designation means it can be overclocked.
Indeed.
So a new chip also means new motherboards, of course. So the X470 line is about to drop in full force. We'll be talking a lot more about them in the coming weeks.
And if you want to learn more about the new line from AMD, make sure that you tune in to Newegg Studios again later today at 2 p.m. Pacific. JJ from Asus will be here along with members of the AMD team to take a real deep dive into the new chips and motherboards. So again, that's wherever you're watching right now.
Yes, come back here to where you are in this moment in time at 2 p.m. Pacific, right here on Newegg's YouTube, Facebook channels, everything you want to know about the new AMD.
I like your gimme hands.
My grabby hands, because all your questions are going to be answered, so you're not going to want to miss it.
So right now, it's time to talk about this wonderful system that we have right over here on the table, and we'll be right back to do that with a little help from EVGA. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Newegg Now. If you're a fan of tech, if you've been paying attention, you've been watching this show, like you should be watching this show, you've no doubt heard of EVGA. They're probably most well known for their full line of NVIDIA GPUs.
For sure, but they also make a full suite of other components and even peripherals, everything from keyboards to motherboards. So while you're probably most familiar with their graphics cards, you can put together a system using a lot of EVGA components, which is exactly what we have here to talk about today.
Yeah, so EVGA has partnered with ABS on this special build we're going to be taking a look at. If you don't already know, ABS has been building PCs for gaming and professional applications for many years now. I love going to their site. It's literally work, play. So you can pick exactly what kind of system you want to build. And you can find them all over Newegg, too, if you want to learn more. So ABS are known for solid builds at good competitive prices, systems that are attractive even to those of you in the Newegg audience who are always going to think about building their own rigs rather than buying something pre-built, some really cool design elements.
ABS and EVGA have teamed up to build the new Precision gaming desktop line, and you can check both models out on that Newegg Now page, the Precision Pro and the Precision Extreme, which is the beauty that we have right here in the studio. Yes. And here to tell us more about these new systems, we have Jacob from EVGA. Welcome back to the show, Jacob. Good to see you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me again.
And just to set up our audience again, just real quickly, could you remind people what your position is at EVGA?
Yes, so at EVGA, basically anything that's related to the product. So my title's product director, so working with new products, existing products, and talking to people like you.
You get to play with all the toys.
Yes, of course.
All the toys. I mean, you just walk into your house and it's just like gear.
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome.
Exactly.
That's exactly what I want to hear.
Jacob, I play with all the toys. That's what it says on your business card.
That's what it says.
All right, well, let's just dive right in and talk about this gorgeous build.
Yeah.
What can you tell us about it?
Yeah, so this is using several different EVGA components. So we have an EVGA motherboard. It's the Z370 FTW. We also have an EVGA graphics card, which is, of course, the 1080 Ti. We have an EVGA CPU cooler in there as well. So it's the CLC 240. And we also have an EVGA power supply. So that's very close to as much EVGA components you can get in one system. So
yeah, and we're
exciting.
talking like these are the top of the line parts that EVGA is offering in each of those categories.
Very close to top of the line, yes, in most of them.
Right
can you tell me a little bit about the liquid cooling you've got in this build right now?
Yeah, so this is the CLC 240. So this is a closed loop cooling solution. So it's liquid cooled. There's actually fluid running through those tubes. There's a radiator, there's a pump, everything that you would expect in a water cooling setup. So the cool thing about this is it is RGB, of course. It has software that goes along with it, so you can change the color of the cooler, the EVGA logo on the cooler. You can also even sync it to the graphics card to match the graphics card colors if you want to color match your system.
Nice. And EVGA is using their own headers for that, or?
It actually plugs into a USB 2.0 header on the motherboard. Yep. So it can work on any motherboard really that has a USB 2.0 header, which is pretty much all of them.
And so you were saying that you were syncing it up with whatever graphics card solution they might have, but I mean we want to talk about the graphics card that's currently in this build. What can you tell us about what's going on with EVGA and the 1080 Ti?
Yeah, so this is the 1080 Ti SC2 graphics card. So this is one of our highest end graphics cards that we offer on the 1080 Ti, which is one of the highest end GPUs for gaming, of course. So the cool thing about this card is it has our ICX technology.
Okay.
So for anyone who's not familiar with our ICX technology, basically what we did is we added 9 sensors across the entire board. So those are monitoring GPU temperatures, memory temperatures, voltage temperatures, and this card has 2 fans. Those fans are actually independently running. Okay. So they are responsible for cooling different zones on the card. So for example, if this zone is getting hotter, this fan will increase. If the other zone's getting hotter, the other fan will increase. And you can actually use our software to monitor all of those different sensors to see everything that's going on the graphics card.
Now, is there a way to have that system communicate? So like say someone's adding this card into a system where they already have kind of a cooling setup or sort of a solution in mind. Does that communicate with other, I mean, obviously, we're going to want to pair it with an EVGA motherboard, but looking at that upgrader, does that system translate into other types of solutions that someone might already have?
Yeah, so the ICX cooling on the graphics card is independent. It's completely on the graphics card. It doesn't require any other EVGA components. Even if you have any other motherboard, you can monitor all the temperatures on the graphics card. You can still control each fan independently as well.
Oh, right on. That's excellent.
Now, you mentioned that this build has the Z370 FTW EVGA motherboard.
Right.
What sets this apart from other Z370 models?
Winning. Lots of winning, yeah.
Yeah, lots of winning.
I mean, I think that's what it's because
that's what the FTW.
Yeah.
That's what
I'm sorry, Jacob. Could you please jump in there and save me from a terrible joke?
What else separates it from the Z370 models?
Well, outside of winning, so on this motherboard we have robust storage options. So we have 6 SATA ports. We have M.2 support as well. But for us, over the years of kind of our BIOS development, we have really refined the BIOS and overclocking. So overclocking is, when it comes to motherboards, graphics cards, overclocking is really kind of one of our key points that we really try to achieve to make sure that it's very robust for overclocking. Of course, this is an 8700K CPU in here, so
right.
that CPU could be overclocked, right? So you want to make sure you have an overclocking motherboard to do it.
Nice. And so to go along with that, we were taking a look at some of the other specs on this page. We had Intel in to talk about Optane tech, and this is what you guys opted for this partnership with ABS.
Right. Yeah, Optane is pretty cool. So basically Optane, for anyone who's not familiar with Optane, it allows you to take not necessarily, but maybe a slower mechanical hard drive. Then you can take an Optane storage. It's a very small, inexpensive storage. Pair those two together, and you can get pretty much SSD performance. So it's kind of used like a cache for the hard drive. So you can get all the terabyte, 2 terabyte, whatever storage you want, and the benefit of SSD at a much lower price.
And so, I mean, a lot of this stuff looks like it's focused on gaming. Have you guys found at EVGA that Intel Optane tech has made a significant improvement in how games perform?
So it'll affect anything that is accessing the storage drive. So that would be more like game load times.
Okay.
Improving game load times. You know, it would speed up the storage or the speed that games load. And you know, some of these games are huge. You know, like 80, 100 gigs. You know,
Right.
So you know, having a good storage device, especially if you're moving files around, is important.
And I see on our spec sheet also that this build has 16 gigabytes of DDR4 RAM. You are targeting high-end consumers with this model. Do you feel like 16 gigabytes is enough?
Yeah, 16. Certainly for gamers, 16 gigabytes is enough. I mean, you could go to 32 gigs, but realistically, the number of applications that'll use 32 gigabytes, I mean, 32 gigabytes is a lot of system memory. So 16 gigabytes is more than adequate.
Cool.
Nice. Okay, so especially because I've been still, like, I put my rebuild on hold because I kind of want to see what's coming down the pipe. I'll be checking out the interview with AMD at 2 p.m. Pacific. Very interested in what they have to say today too. But like the cable management on this is really clean.
Yeah.
What influences were sort of working with this new sort of shroud design on the case, and how does that fit into like what you guys are doing with the power supply and all of the power cords that people always have an issue moving around?
Yeah, so you know, we have a variety of different power supplies. We have modular ones which help with cable management. We have non-modular ones maybe at a lower price point. So you know, for us, it's making sure that number one, the cables are sleeved, right? Because everybody, I mean, you want to have sleeved cables. It looks a lot nicer.
Right.
And number two, making sure that it reaches the different areas. So like your 8-pin power connector, making sure that it reaches in all cases. You don't have too long of a cable that's going to be unnecessary cable that you have to somehow tuck away. So making sure that the cables are the correct lengths, sleeving the cables, and also having options on some of our power supplies, like having modular designs, can really help the cable management in the system.
So all the pieces on this fit together really well. What was that working relationship like with ABS? Because you know they have their own reputation and they make some really cool looking systems too. At what point was, like, you know, for example, you're talking about cable management and the shroud and all those things going together. And I'm sure there's also a part of EVGA that would love to have even the power supply branding, you know, front and center, but it makes a lot of sense to have a really cool shroud to also keep things looking tidy.
Yeah.
What was that process like?
Yeah, so I mean, you know, for EVGA, first of all, we want to make sure that all of our components work together and work together well. So this build uses a lot of EVGA components. So it kind of just naturally all works together very well. With that being said, you know, we do have a variety of other cases and components to make sure that we're kind of compatible with everything, and no matter what kind of build you put together, EVGA will work well with it.
Right on.
So what else should people know about this system?
Well, it plays games very good.
Well, okay, let's expand upon very good.
Let's build on that.
What kind of gaming
like where you're going with
performance
this.
can
Yeah,
people
so
expect from
this is the GTX 1080 Ti. So I mean, you'll be able, no matter what monitor you pair this to, whether you're running 1080p, you're running 1440p, even in most cases 4K, this will be able to drive 60 FPS plus in pretty much everything. So I mean, you're taking some of the best components. You have an 8700K, which is arguably the best CPU for gaming today. And then you're taking the GTX 1080 Ti, which is even less arguably, it probably is the best GPU for gaming today, right? So, I mean, you're taking those two components together and you're building really an awesome machine for gaming.
Now, because we've had a couple other hosts recently, a couple other guests on recently to talk about things like esports. What is EVGA's consideration on some of the different styles of gameplay? I mean, obviously, this is going to be a monster system, which is going to be a good all-rounder. It's going to be doing pretty much everything well. but are there certain considerations or certain parts, certain product lines that consumers should be looking at if, say, they're maybe more into like a Dota or more into like an Overwatch?
Well, I mean, when it comes to different games, all games have different set of requirements for hardware. Something like a Dota, I mean, a 1080 Ti is more than enough for Dota for sure. But you know, when it comes to, we don't specifically make like this product is good for Dota, this product is good for, you know, it's more well-rounded. But you know, if you're building a PC for Dota, I mean, GTX 1060, 1070 is a great option as well.
Gotcha.
So I mean, this PC on the table here can pretty much play everything. So Dota, Far Cry 5, whatever it is, you know, you want to play, this can pretty much do it all.
I mean, you guys want the best. You just have that.
Oh yeah.
Just let them.
You know, just spend all the monies. So the PC
Frankenbox
that we've been talking about on the show so far, that's the ABS Precision Extreme build that we have here, and that's for $100 off right now with a 1080 Ti graphics card, or if you'd prefer a 1070 version, we also have that available for $100 off. You can check them out right now, right on the top of that Newegg Now deals page. So let's now kind of shift gears and talk about buying a pre-build like this versus building your own. What do you, Jacob, see as the advantages of each approach?
Yeah, some pros and cons.
Yeah, there's certainly pros and cons to both approaches. The pros to having a pre-built system like this is the warranty is obviously all covered. If anything should go wrong, it shouldn't, but you know, in the case of that, it's also, I mean, you don't have to mess with it, right? You plug it in, you play your game, that's how it goes. When it comes to building your own, you know, you got to make sure things are compatible. It's a lot easier today than it used to be, maybe 10, 20 years ago. But you know, you do want to make sure that all the components work together. And also, obviously, you have to assemble it. So you have to have some know-how to put the system together and, you know,
and even some of the resources can sometimes run into problems too. Did you see, I think it was either yesterday or the day before, PC Parts Picker was saying every single CPU was incompatible. It was just a bug on their site. And people were freaking out.
Everyone
like,
was just so sad all day.
Sad. It was hilarious.
Suddenly everything is incompatible with everything.
Exactly.
I'm like, not PC Part Picker. I use it all the time. Oh, God.
As I feel her arm on my shoulder. Gasp.
So dramatic.
But with that being said, I mean, it really is so easy to build a PC these days compared to how it used to be. But there's pros and cons to both.
Now, is this something that, again, to kind of maybe even try and get some proprietary information out of you, because EVGA has had strategic partnerships with other PC builders in the past. Is this something that maybe might be a future glimpse at what EVGA is looking to do in the space?
I mean, well, we certainly have our laptops, which is on the table right there. But you'll just have to wait and see on that one.
I tried. I had to try.
And before the show started, we were talking a little bit about Computex, one of the biggest hardware events of the year. Do you have any little teaser proprietary knowledge you'd like to share about what sort of news we can expect from EVGA?
You did say that we should drop by, and I feel like that's an invitation I need to hold you to.
Yeah. So yeah, we're pretty excited about Computex. You know, it's the biggest, one of the biggest hardware shows of the year, certainly. And yeah, we're going to have some new power supplies and, you know, various other products to talk about as well. But again, you'll have to wait and see. I'll repeat that again.
We'll just have to front a plane ticket and make our way out there.
Yeah, we have to try.
So
we have to try. That's our job. That's
the thing. So, Jacob, thank you so much for dropping by, man. Again, and especially maybe post Computex, like you're gonna have to come back on again,
for sure,
and then we can keep chatting about some really cool gear.
Yeah, definitely.
And
Thanks
also sweet shirt.
Yes.
Yeah.
Vaporwave,
we were
man.
talking about
I wear a men's medium, and I will happily sport that logo and that design right there.
All right.
I'll
bring one next time I come.
And be on the lookout for one of my future podcasts where I'm wearing an EVGA t-shirt.
Woohoo! Awesome, cool. Thanks again, Jacob. You're a rock star.
Thanks.
For everyone at home, check out those precision systems yourself on the Newegg Now page. And if you'd rather put together your own EVGA-themed build, we've got you covered with just about everything you need. We've got the excellent EVGA X299 FTWK Intel motherboard for $100 off, as well as the very popular EVGA DG73 case discounted for $35 off.
And to power your new build, we have the EVGA Supernova 650 fully modular power supply unit, $30 off. So whether you want a pre-built monster gaming system like we're showing off right here, or quality components to help you build your rig, EVGA has you covered, and Newegg Now is here to help you save some cash.
Yeah, so that's going to do it for EVGA and ABS this week. Remember to hit up that newegg.com/NeweggNow page to buy all of this awesome PC stuffs and to check out all the other big deals that are here today.
What are the big deals?
Yeah, so at this point, we're going to toss to an interview that we recently had a chance to talk to the head of PR for Survios.
Yeah.
That's the hit VR development studio behind games like Raw Data, Sprint Vector, and a couple of really exciting upcoming VR titles, which we talked about in the interview. Now, this interview was recorded previously, so Juan and I will do a very magic quick change with our clothes for this segment. Please don't freak out in chat. It's okay. It was pre-recorded.
No freaking out. You guys are going to be cool. I know you can roll with this. Just VR gaming goodness.
Yes.
All right, so let's throw to that interview, and we'll be right back.
Welcome back. If you're tuned at all into the world of virtual reality gaming, then you've already heard of Survios. They're one of the most successful VR development studios around and had one of VR's first massive hits with Raw Data. They've kept right on rolling since then, releasing Sprint Vector earlier this year and with 2 more games coming out on the horizon. Survios is based right here in Southern California, so here to talk to us all about what they've been up to is their VP of Marketing, Mike Domergang. Welcome, Mike.
Hey, what's up, guys?
So, I want to kick off. You're the head of marketing, the VP of marketing. What exactly do you do with the Survios team?
So what we do over at Survios is we try to we have a big premise, and what that is we want to bring active VR to the masses. So what we want to do is we really want to evangelize, and we look for people like yourselves in terms of who help us get that word out, and then produce the best content with the best active platforms.
So, even before we jumped on camera, we were having a conversation. And you're like, the best thing, like evangelism-wise, is the fact that you're a fan of this stuff too. How did you get into VR gaming, just personally? What brought you into this experience?
So I got into VR gaming. First of all, I was a big gamer, as you know. Anyone who's in the video games always has stories of playing with their dad on the 2600.
Right on.
So then I went into advertising, worked on the Sony PlayStation account. Over at Chiat Day, started loving it, and then went into kind of the brand manager role over at Novalogic. So again, Delta Force Black Hawk Down was my title.
Nice.
Tecmo, so Ninja Gaiden and Dead or Alive. I worked on those brands.
Awesome.
So I was able to actually bridge and play, get involved in all the things that I used to play as a kid, right? And from there, got into startup culture, and a couple of people I used to work with said, "Hey, let's put the call out," and we're looking for a marketing person, and here at Survios, and help us get great content to the masses.
So now you're at Survios. Yeah. How big of a studio is Survios?
We hover around 100.
That's a nice size team.
Yeah, it's not too shabby.
Yeah.
That's a good team.
How did Survios get started making VR games?
Well, the history goes back to 2013, 2012 or ballpark, with our 3 founders, Nathan Burba, James Iliff, and Alex Silkin. They were in the mixed reality lab for USC. One of the people that came out of the lab, you may have heard the name, Palmer Luckey. So they used to work with Palmer Luckey.
Okay.
And they created all this different content, and then from there, they said, "Hey, let's create a company." And from there, it's just been going for, I believe this is going to be our 5th year anniversary around Memorial Day.
So Survios really had that focus on VR immersive content.
Yes.
From sort of the inception of the company.
Yes. But again, when we say immersive, I want to be, there's other, you've seen, we talked prior about mobile versus all this stuff.
Yeah.
The big difference that we bring to the table, besides the immersion part, is also the activity part.
Right.
You will get sweaty. You will become part
You will get wet.
You will, but you will also be part of the game.
Right.
Like, you're not just going to passively look. We want you, like in Raw Data, when you play Raw Data, you are the badass superhero, right? You're going to be shooting, you're going to be slicing and dicing and everything, or using the ninja. But that's the difference, where what we want to always bring to the table. So we always try to push that envelope with all the games in terms of technology, in terms of the content that we bring.
You do that amazingly.
Right.
So let's quickly kind of go through the different Survios games. So you have
Yeah.
two already released.
Two
with
already released.
Raw Data and Sprint Vector, and two coming up, Electronauts and Creed.
Yes.
So let's start with Raw Data. That was a really big hit. Like one of the biggest hit games of the first year of VR, I feel like a lot of people would say. Why do you think it was so successful when so many other virtual reality games at the time struggled?
Had some problems, yeah.
Yeah, so first of all, like when you talk about successes, a lot of people may not know this about Raw Data. They kind of like, oh, it's been successful. We did, in our first month, $1 million. And we've talked about this before. That's a big deal. So that allows developers to see what the North Star is. We were the top seller on day one over all Steam games globally. I mean, that's a big deal. So we were going against like non-VR games. We're the first VR game to do all that. One thing about our team, we're extremely passionate. Extremely, again, and I may sound biased, but we are second to none when we bring the passion. And that also, that manifests itself in terms of game design, in terms of programming, in terms of quality assurance, in terms of art. I mean, you see the polish we go through, and that's what we brought to the table in that Gen 1 world. In 2016.
So with that success on Raw Data, is development still being done on that title? Is it considered, is that pie baked at any point?
I would like to tell you a little bit more about it, but my PR team will kill me.
Ooh.
So I will say respectfully, no comment at this moment, but something's coming up.
But with that little, because I think it's something we've been talking about a couple other developers that are looking at their properties, looking at their titles as continuing conversations. But I feel like a lot of that first gen in the VR space was sort of like just maybe a step above in terms of polish from a tech demo, and here's the finished thing, and that's the game you can play, and then they kind of walked away.
Well, I think one thing what we did with Raw Data was, you know, when we released it, we also said we released it in early access. We're gamers at our core, as well as that's who we're creating content for.
Right.
We always make it a point to, you know, we just did, for Sprint Vector, we did an AMA, talking with people. We've done, again, you know, we have a very active community management team that kind of like always discusses, and we do a lot of community events.
Just try and stay on the pulse.
Stay on the pulse.
So speaking of Sprint Vector, it's obviously a very different game from Raw Data. Where did the idea to make a racing game come from?
We want to challenge what people think you can't do in VR. And with Sprint Vector, the first thing that if you read a lot of stuff, they're talking about locomotion. It's all about teleporting, all about teledashing. You can't move without getting sick. Well, we created the fluid locomotion system, and that's one of the things that when you know it's a Survios game, we're going to bring some innovation. So we were saying, no, I want you to go 100 miles per hour. I want you to climb 300-foot walls, and then from there, you won't get sick. And we challenged that at last GDC in 2017.
I have a hard time with that teleportation system in a lot of games, and Sprint Vector made me feel like I was Spider-Man for a lot longer before my brain kicked in and reminded me that I should feel motion sickness by this, and I wasn't.
Exactly, and we want to challenge that, and if I can call out some games that, or a character that everyone's familiar with, right? What would it be like to be Sonic?
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's the amazing part. And what happens, you know, for the people that are in wheelchairs? You can play Sprint Vector and you can feel like you're running. And you can feel the exertion that you have to do. You can climb walls. And that's has been kind of a side result of things happening where at the end of the day, what Sprint Vector and what Raw Data, we've been able to empower people, especially again, as I told you before, it's all about active VR. You know, you are part of it. So the people, we actually have videos from people who have visited our booths at a lot of the different shows that normally they go, okay, try it out. They may not be able to hit anything, but for one brief moment, we've touched that aspirational goal, and it's magical.
Well, I mean, as a fairly able-bodied individual, it's an empowering feeling.
Yes, you are.
Let alone
much better than I am, because I'm terrible still, even still.
But I mean, it's important. Like again, not leaving someone behind in terms of accessibility. Like that's a very accessible experience for a lot of other people to reach too.
Absolutely, and that's kind of has been the side effect, and that's the kind of the magic that we see. You know, we have a lot of the premium headsets, and that's what the magic that they bring to the table. In terms of activity, you know, so it's important to us.
For sure. Now, we've talked a little bit about raw data and Sprint Vector, and those are both available now. If anyone at home wants to go check them out,
Please
you can
do.
play them right now.
Go play them.
What should everyone know about Electronauts?
So I'll give you a brief history. I was back in a long time ago. I was a mobile DJ. I got out of it. I got out of it because I don't have rhythm.
Okay, well, that's a problem.
That's a very good reason
Very,
to
very good
get
reason.
out of being
And the
a
magic
DJ.
about Electronauts is you can't sound bad. And
Okay.
I challenge that. So we have a technology there we call music reality engine. And one thing it does a couple of things. It reacts to the music that you're playing, the visuals. So that's pretty cool. And the other thing also, we just say you won't sound bad. So we've got some great artists that we partnered with Stargate. They're the hit makers from Katy Perry to with a bunch of different artists. And you know, I've challenged it saying I really sound bad, but I don't. It's amazing. And that's the thing, it's a music creation tool. And it will allow people to become that performer or become that musician that they've always dreamed to do.
Would we call Electronauts a music making experience or a music making game? Because you know, you can take a look at other titles that have like plastic instruments and that there are specific goals and benchmarks and you can sound bad if you're not playing very well. What is the internal take on something like Electronauts?
It's a music creation experience. So
Okay.
the way I've always kind of explained all this is, you know, in Rock Band and in Guitar Hero,
yeah.
you get to be Aerosmith. You get to be a musician, right? You play their songs. In Electronauts, you take their songs and you get to own it, i.e. you get to remix it as a DJ. It becomes something that you now have embodied and you own. And that's kind of the difference when you look at the other music games that are out there.
And less about like scoring and perfection and things
Correct.
like that. Okay.
I mean, you will probably, I invite both of you to come to our studio, check it out, but more importantly, make sure
Nick, we're gonna
come
field
down
trip
and stuff. Yeah, no, but come down and play it, and you will probably get sucked in for an hour.
Okay.
Because you're going to be just stuck in all the different rooms, and you'll realize how magical that tool it really is.
Oh, I'm super excited for that. I'm rhythmically challenged myself, so this could be very exciting for me.
I really want to see what I can do with it.
Right?
As a tap
Please.
dancer in a former life.
Yeah, it's amazing.
All right, so let's kind of switch over and talk about Creed Rise to Glory for a little bit. What is it, and what makes it different from other VR boxing games?
You get to train, you get to fight, and you get to win as Adonis Creed. So it's a boxing VR simulation game where you are in the Creed universe. You get to fight various boxers. We haven't really opened the door and kind of told the rest of the story, which we are going to, and where you get to feel what it feels like to be knocked out, as well as to kind of hit something. This one teaches you that there's all these different things that you have to be aware of, just like in real boxing. So you'll hear the heartbeat, you'll hear the heavy breathing. And it again, when you're in one of these things, it's really intense, right? And that's the thing is like, by the end, I promise you, again, come to the studio, feel what it's like to be a boxer.
Right on.
And it's a little bit different than those other boxing games.
Now, just because I've been really hung up on this in some of our previous episodes, sounds like amazing tech on display there. Is Creed going to have some form of story mode? Is this just going to be like 1v1 or individual bouts? Is there going to be some way to progress through Creed's life?
So at this
career?
point, being in marketing, can't really tell you.
Okay.
We have some more beats and everything that we will be sharing a lot more news in the upcoming months.
All right. So we'll be on the lookout.
We'll be satisfied with that for now. Okay, so with games like Creed and Sprint Vector, you guys are pretty much experts at getting people just drenched in sweat playing VR games.
Yeah.
Do you have any advice for keeping headsets clean when you're playing with a friend and sharing one headset?
So this is a pretty big passion to our company for a couple of reasons. Again, if you visit us at various shows, we do a lot of shows to really, again, to get people into VR. But the other thing also is that we have an arcade in Torrance, California. And so we deal with that problem on a daily basis. So we've got, part of that process, that demo process, you gotta just be diligent in terms of keeping things clean with wipes, right? The other thing also, if it gets overly sweaty, we can also replace kind of that foam face mask and then pop in different things.
Right on. So, I mean, looking at some of these things, you were talking about the technologies that Survios is responsible for building. I mean, we just recently have been spending some time with the Vive Pro, sitting right next to you there too. What have some of your thoughts been on HTC's newest edition? I mean, I know you're coming from marketing, but I mean, you've been playing with this stuff too. And do you feel that some of this tech is starting to empower your development team to push the envelope on newer game mechanics and newer technologies on your side too?
Yeah, it does. I mean, again, these last few weeks have been big in VR, right? Late March was the anniversary of the Rift. Yeah. And April 5th, that's the anniversary for the Vive, right? So it's a big couple weeks. And I think, again, think of this as kind of your luxury mobile. Some people afford it, some people won't. But the experience is amazing. Yeah. Right? Ranging from the audio, it sounds really well. It's graphically, it's really sharp. It really immerses you. But on the con side, it's a little expensive. Yeah. You know, and I think that's where we've, as a society, we've got to see where we're going to net out. Of course, business-wise, it makes, you know, there's all the business cases that you want, but we've got to figure that out. As a product, it's an amazing product.
What are your thoughts on traditional games like Fallout or Skyrim that are then adapted for VR? Oh, yeah.
Again, I think that's amazing. I think there's always a place for everything. If that brings more people into the industry, it helps us all. Yeah. We have a different development philosophy, which is, of course, building VR from the ground up. Right. But again, we celebrate everyone. I mean, we are, at our core, as we kind of talked about our history, we are VR enthusiasts. We are, when I say enthusiasts, not just about the technology, but the technology, the content, location-based entertainment. We're enthusiasts all around. So whatever has to happen in order to push that forward, the VR industry forward, we're all for it. And we will help support it in any way possible.
Right on.
So in the VR space, you hear a lot of talk about people saying, well, VR will finally break out in a big way once it's had its big game, whatever the software title is that makes people need to have a VR headset. If you set aside your own games for a second,
that might be near impossible.
Yeah, do you think that that's true? Is VR still waiting for that big game?
I think it's going to be on some different levels. I think you're right on point when you talk about content. We're still, what is that content that's going to push the envelope? I think mobile's always talked about, if I could get you into a Beyonce concert and all of us in the same seat, why wouldn't you do that, right? Yeah. Right. You've heard that story. You've heard, hey, I'm going to bring Fallout. I'm going to bring all these other known games into VR, right? You've heard that story. Right. So I think content they're trying to figure what's going to be that killer content. Right. The other thing that has to happen, again, is how do we lower the expenses to get into there? And what I mean by that isn't just the financial cost, because there are people that always pay for it, right? Totally. But there's a lot more things, like if I had to buy one of these, I still have to buy a laptop. Yeah. I still have to put in the cameras, put in the lighthouses and things like that, all the sensors and everything like that. It's a lot of work. And so that's what I mean by expense. So when those two happen, for example, how long was Xbox around before Halo came out? 2-3 years. There was still content there. But at the end of the day, it's pretty simple. You buy the box, you buy the game, I can play. Right. There's a lot more effort, a lot more steps that have to happen. And the other thing also is you need the space, right, at the end of the day.
Would there be any consideration for doing a non-VR game? Is that something that you think the team would be interested in trying to tackle as a challenge?
Maybe. Never say never. You don't know what the future holds for us. But right now, we are an active VR company.
And we were talking off camera before we started this interview a little bit about the arcade here in Southern California. Please tell us about the arcade.
Yes, we have it's in Torrance, California, the Del Amo Fashion Center. We have a code. If you say Game Crate, you will get 20% off if you come over till the end of summer. But I invite both of you, everybody in this room, to come down. I challenge everyone here in Sprint Vector. We can do an 8-player race. We'll play for lunch.
That sounds amazing.
So that sounds like a fun challenge.
Yeah, that's a challenge.
Very cool. Right awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming to talk to us today, Mike. This was awesome.
Appreciate it.
So that was some really cool stuff.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
We're looking forward to visiting Survios at their VR arcade very soon, which I've lovingly started calling the VRcade. The VRcade.
The VRcade?
Instead of the VR arcade.
The VR arcade. Yeah, no, the VRcade. I like that a lot better. No, we're going to get t-shirts.
Probably
made,
not.
right?
No, probably not at all. It's probably
that.
a real dumb idea.
Right in. I
no.
think she just came up with a great idea.
Legit, we're going to the VRcade on a future episode of Newegg Now, so stay tuned for that.
Yes, I mean, we absolutely need to be taking more field trips anyway, and I figure that's the best place to start. So we're coming up at the end of the show today. So let's take another look at that Newegg Now deals page before we go. And remembering, of course, these deals only last until the end of the day today, while supplies last. So if you see something you like, don't sleep on it. Some of the stuff's probably already gone.
Yeah, we talked earlier about putting together your own build, and there's even more components that we have on sale if you're looking to do that. So if you're looking for a GPU, and let's be honest, who isn't right now?
Who isn't?
We have the MSI GTX 1080 Aero OC for a crazy $150 off, and now is a great time to pick one up, but they are going to move quick, so make sure that you head to the Newegg Now page to pick one up while you can, if they're still available. You'll also want some RGB RAM so that you can customize the look of your build, right? So be sure to check out the 16 gigabytes of Corsair Vengeance RGB RAM that we have discounted for $36 off.
And you know, with your cool RAM and your GPU and all that other fun stuff, you need a place to store your stuff, like your operating system, your media files, games, all that good stuff. So we do have a good solid state drive for you to take a look at. A 240 gigabyte SanDisk SATA SSD for $10 off, and saving on storage is always a nice way to go.
It sure is. Yeah, Jackie in chat, we're looking at you. I know you asked for
Jackie.
a 512, but this is what we got.
And we'll see what we can do about next week, Jackie. Because that's funny you said 512, because that's exactly what I'm looking at too. So we also have a great PC case from Deepcool for a full $80 off today after mail-in rebate. The Gamer Storm Baron Case Liquid, normally $129.99, can be yours for just $49.99. Thanks
a great deal.
to the magic of Newegg Now.
That's a great deal.
And also there's an all-in-one CPU cooler from Ryzen Tech with sweet RGBs, just $84.99 today only.
Okay, so let's talk about mini PCs. We've taken a look at a few of them in detail on the show before with Intel's Nook line and Zotac Z-Box. So these are compact computers, barely bigger than a hand sometimes.
No, I mean, seriously, like
they're so small.
The Intel Nook is smaller than my last router.
Well, and a lot of them are much more powerful than you would expect for that tiny size, especially. These are fantastic options for living room command center PCs, gaming in compact spaces, or a wide variety of professional functions. So check out the Nook and the Z-Box, both available with a discount today as part of Newegg Now. Good times. And laptops are always a popular part of our deals page. We have some really exciting ones today, starting with the Razer Blade Stealth. This is an ultralight, ultra-thin, ultra-book. It's about a half-inch thick, weighs just 2.78 pounds. Grab it today with that promo code on Newegg Now for just $899.99. And we've also got the Asus FX 503VD gaming laptop with the GTX 1050 GPU and the Lenovo Legion with the GTX 1050 Ti. And for those prices, you're just going to have to, you know, go to your browser, go to newegg.com/Newegg Now, look them up right now. I'm talking slow enough that these deals could potentially be evaporating as we speak. Yep. And there's so much more on that deals page. There's an Acer Predator X34 gaming laptop, ultra wide, G-Sync. It's a thing of beauty. Yeah, you can also get a Microsoft Surface Pro 4, the Sound Blaster Z PCIe gaming sound card, and even more, all for crazy prices that will expire at the end of the day today or whenever the limited supplies run out. So that's gonna do it for us. This part of the Newegg festivities is over, but remember, you gotta come back, you gotta tune in. 2 p.m. today on the Newegg YouTube and Facebook channels. Got to watch JJ from Asus talk to AMD about everything Ryzen 2. Yeah. It's JJ from Asus, so you know they're going to get in deep. Yeah, so if you have those like deep digging questions, make sure that you tune in because hopefully they'll be able to answer your questions. I'm pretty sure JJ's going to answer all the questions you have before you even know to ask them. So a lot of fantastic information. Do not miss out. We really want to thank Jacob from EVGA for dropping by the studio, Mike from Survios for walking us through the VRcade.
Yeah, I'm making a T-shirt. That is
Okay.
I'm mad I didn't think of combining those words beforehand. And of course, just my weekly, every week, I want to thank the team here at Newegg
Yes.
for putting together a great live stream, a great show, and some awesome fun stuff to play with. And you guys are making us look good every week, so we couldn't do this without you. We're going to be back next week to talk about tech for parents.
Yeah.
Yeah, get that generational tech discussion going on,
Love it.
with some very special guests.
Yeah, with some
Yeah.
very special guests who we're not allowed to say
Just
at this
yet.
moment.
But you'll want to tune
It's
back
a
in
secret.
for that. 'cause
But
it'll be
next
fun.
week, yay! And before we officially sign off, I saw on Twitter that it's National High Five Day. We did it.
Yeah. So this has been Newegg Now, and now you know.
Bye, guys.
Yeah.